Thank you for joining us today for another corporate college video. My name is Ashley Speaker, and today we are going to be talking about project management, specifically the concept of Scrum. I know you probably have a lot of questions surrounding this idea. So first, I would like to introduce our expert and talent bench member, Bryan. Thank you for being here today, Andre.
Thanks, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited about the topic today and looking forward to a great discussion about it.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait because I always learn so much, and there's always more to learn about this growing field of project management. Lots of things going on in this arena. So could you give me a little bit first about yourself, your background, and your relationship to project management in the industry?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ashley. Again, my name is Bryan, and I'm the managing partner of Bridgeport. And the Bridgeport Group, although we're based in Cleveland, Ohio, we manage projects globally, actually, for several of our customers and our clients. Projects range anywhere from initiating new programs, new ideas, taking complex challenges and projects that they have and kind of removing some of the roadblocks, leveraging technology, everything from artificial intelligence to other enabling technologies to allow their teams to progress through some challenges within projects. So this thing called project management, our firm pretty much lives and dies with that and provides a number of services around that for our clients. I myself, after college and several years in the military, decided that I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And then after realizing that I didn't like all the lawyer jokes and everything that goes along with being a lawyer, that I didn't want to practice. And I fell in love with this thing called project management. And about 20 years or so ago, I got certified as a PMP through PMI. And then I've just kind of fell in love with it ever since. And in addition to leading complex projects for our clients, we also have a passion for teaching the principles of project management. So we are an education provider through PMI. We also are members of the Agile Alliance and Scrum and Scale. So every aspect of project management and Agile and the associations and the governing bodies around these topics, we are members and actively engaged. And what that does is allow us to bring not just our practical application knowledge of what we gain in our work to the classroom, but we can also bring the governance and the requirements and all of the changes in these disciplines. We bring that to the classroom as well. So through Tri-C, our students always end up being pretty much a notch above, as well as cutting edge as far as what's going on in this field called project management.
And that is just so great to be in the industry and in education so that you're always getting that cutting edge of what's going on with project management, but also all these other areas that project management has now grown into, including Scrum. So let's jump right into Scrum, right? Because I think some people have questions about it, of just like even just understanding it as a concept, especially if they've never heard of it before.
Mm-hmm.
We think about projects and project management. We often work in teams, and a common role on a project management team, especially when you have a larger scale team, is that Scrum Master.
Yes.
But can you tell me what Scrum is, just like that root definition, and then what the role of a Scrum Master then would be?
Absolutely. So Scrum comes and is derived, just the term Scrum. If we have any rugby fans out there, we would know that in order for the team to advance the ball in rugby, they huddle together in a scrum. And the goal is to advance the ball across the opponent's goal line, and that could be a project. So advance the ball would be the project. Across the goal line would be completing a customer's requirements in order to win the game, which is delivering a value-added product or service to our customer or client in a rapid manner. So all Scrum is derived from that terminology around rugby, is a agile methodology for delivering and developing projects and sustaining project delivery through changes. one of the things that happens if we think about the rugby example that I used is that there's constant changes, right? The opposing side may do a different play or come up with a different formation. You often have some rule changes you have to be aware of during the course of the game. You oftentimes have weather and other elements that come
Mm-hmm.
in. These all create changes, and changes in project management can be a real challenge. So the Scrum methodology is nothing more than an agile framework for dealing with those changes and ensuring that you can sustain the project delivery no matter how complex it is, and you put an emphasis on ensuring that the customer is truly happy with what you deliver. Thereby, it's like winning a rugby
I
match.
love that example. It really actually brings it home when you talk about all the different elements that, come into play during a
Yes.
game. What a huge thing too is dealing with change and changes that can occur along that journey of the project.
Mhm.
So, when you're thinking about that, then there's a specific role of a Scrum Master. So,
Yes.
what is their role in ensuring, I guess, that ball gets to, the goal line?
The goal line. Great question. The Scrum Master's role is almost like the coach of the team. So
Okay.
we bring it back to the rugby example, and I like to tell my students as well as my colleagues and customers is that the Scrum Master really coaches the team to ensure that they can execute agile. Okay. They make sure that when the challenges, the changes, which all create uncertainty, right? And uncertainty is nothing more than risk. So as the elements change, that brings more uncertainty. Uncertainty leads to risk, and you need a good coach that's going to oversee the team to ensure that they can address the risk and mitigate those risks. That's what a Scrum Master does. So think of the Scrum Master as a coach that prioritizes what the team should do and removes obstacles to ensure that the team can succeed in their effort to have rapid delivery. Now, Scrum Master is a critical role within Agile and within this discipline called Scrum, because although they take a really important role, they're not necessarily the leader of a project
Mhm.
team. So, unlike project manager, where you have someone that actually leads the team, the Scrum Master, although they have a very important role as the coach, they aren't exclusively the leader of the team because teams are self organized and they kind of make the rules early on in the process. And the Scrum Master is required to enforce the rules and make sure that there's discipline with respect to doing Agile.
Are you sure I can't have a Scrum Master for my life project? Because I feel like someone to give me perspective and
Exactly.
prioritize would be great.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's a great analogy, Ashley, because that's exactly what a Scrum Master does for the team. They help them prioritize things. They keep them moving in a way that regardless of what challenges come their way, they're able to meet those challenges, overcome them, all with the goal in mind of getting the ball across the goal line. So yeah, I'm like you. I would love to have a Scrum Master in my life.
Right. That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh my
Great.
goodness. So, yeah, so looking then at like this whole idea of having this, Scrum being used and this Scrum Master, this individual to help, there's also this concept of scaling Scrum that's been an industry term that, we've heard. So, what is scaling Scrum?
Great question again. The concept of Scrum was designed to address an individual project team. So in Scrum, the ideal team in Scrum as a methodology of Agile, the ideal team is 10 or fewer people.
Okay.
And with a smaller team, that allows the team to be nimble. It allows the team to be pretty quick in their decision making and allows them to self organize. And when you have a single team of ideally, let's say 6 or 7 people, they can address an issue single handedly make decisions, act on those decisions, and then constantly check with the customer to ensure that what they're doing is right. But imagine trying to do that on a large scale with a big corporation and then coordinating multiple teams, going from one to many. Scaling Scrum and Scrum at Scale is a methodology to do just that. Take my organization from a single Scrum team and duplicate them many times over throughout the entire organization.
Mm.
Now, if we think about our organizations, Ashley, many of our organizations are functional, which means we have a marketing department, we have a finance department, we have a technology department. Oftentimes they work independently. So if I developed a Scrum team in IT department and it works extremely well, and I have a Scrum Master that's doing an exceptional job, why couldn't I duplicate that team in marketing? Why
Mm.
couldn't I duplicate that team in all of the other business operations? And the fact of the matter is I can. So Scrum at Scale really teaches an organization on a high level, holistically, how to duplicate the success of a single Scrum team throughout the entire organization. And what that really does, it breaks down silos. So now when marketing has to do work with IT, they're not operating separately, speaking a different language. They're operating and they're collaborating more effectively as teams because they've learned how to scale their Scrum operations within the agile environment of the organization.
That's a great thing because so often, yeah, departments become silos. I mean, they're great at what they do, they're experts in their field, and things like terminology can really like make it so that you're on a different page when you really have the same goal.
Mhm.
So with that, would there be like training or people tapped on to have Scrum Masters in different departments when you're doing Scrum scaling, or would it kind of be this like major team that kind of interacts with the department?
That's a great question. Because Scrum is flexible and you can kind of move the parts around, the answer is yes and yes.
Okay.
So, in many organizations, the great thing about Agile is that Agile has so much flexibility in it, just in the Agile in a pure sense, that it allows you to say, I'd like to create an Agile office
Mm.
which will support all of my global projects. And my individual business units can operate some flavor of Agile, but they all tap into this centralized Agile office that kind of oversees and sets the governance and the standards of how Agile should operate within the organization. So that is one format that works extremely well in some organizations. In other organizations, it makes sense to have possibly an agile office, but more importantly than that, to have individual Scrum teams that just duplicate themselves throughout the organization and they operate to serve the need of that function. So engineering could have a series of Scrum teams that they scale, but engineering Scrum teams all are designed to facilitate the needs of the marketing group or the technology group, et cetera, et cetera. So now through a Scrum and Scale methodology and through a Scrum Master and a Scrum of Scrum Masters, right? Or a Scrum of Scrum, or
The
a
Scrum of
Scrum of
Scrum. Yeah.
Scrum Masters. Exactly. So that's how it's done. So in scaling Scrum, you're taking that same basic Scrum model and
Mm.
you're scaling it to address the ever-growing needs of the organization as well as its customer base. And the reason this seems to work so well is that if you are a large organization and you're providing a service to yet a larger organization, let's say maybe you're providing something to the federal government or something like that, the likelihood is the project that you're working on with them has so many different facets that intersect with multiple divisions or functional areas within your organization. So, for instance, when we do work with a government agency, our technology department's engaged, our business development, our financial management departments engaged. So if we have a scaled Scrum solution within our organization, it doesn't matter which group within our organization is engaged at the moment. They all have a singular focus towards the same customer, and they can put those functional areas together for one complete solution to the customer. There's not three or four different things that that customer is getting from Bridgeport Group.
That's awesome. And so, like, when you think about that, if like a company's thinking about like, should I be introducing Scrum? Do I need an individual that's a Scrum Master or Scrum on my team? Could you kind of summarize some of those benefits that they would get by adding that addition, especially when as a growing company or someone that's trying to do larger scale projects?
That's a great question. Again, actually, you're right on it. I tell you, I love the questions because they're well thought out, and I can tell you that what you just mentioned is a challenge that a lot of organizations are facing. Do I Scrum or do I not Scrum?
Mm.
Do I, if I'm currently using Scrum within my organization, is it the time to scale? So that is a question that leadership is really constantly has to evaluate. What typically happens is the organization has to first and foremost examine its culture. And they've got to realize, is the culture prepared for a transformation to this thing called Agile, in particular to Scrum? And if the organization feels that culturally it's positioned itself so a methodology like Agile could work, at that point, they go into some executive leadership planning and decision making.
Mm.
Okay. So determining when and how to bring in Scrum and to scale Scrum has to be done at an executive level because that decision has to align with the overall strategy of the organization. Okay. So once the organization has determined the strategy, it has to say, can our culture support this thing called Agile, or do we need to transform ourselves internally? Because Agile is going to require more collaboration, breaking down silos, more transparency inside the organization as well as with our customers, more and a better and stronger relationship with our customers, more as partners instead of just customers, and the discipline to continue through Agile, even when it seems to get a little rough, to be consistent. If the culture does not afford itself the ability to address those, then the leadership has to start to make some changes in transforming the culture. And guess what? The beauty of it is they can use this thing called Agile to transform themselves to be more Agile like. So
That's perfect.
it is exactly. So so those are the decisions that leadership has to make before they just wholesale say, hey, we want to convert the way we work to become more like Agile or more like Scrum. So I know that's a long answer, but it really kind of lays out what's the thought pattern that should happen
Mhm.
before an organization starts to do that. One of the great things we've done through the college is work with some large global organizations that have struggled with that decision. And through the college, we've been able to sit down and not only develop a training plan, but before the training plan, we've been able to identify what changes needs to happen within the organization. So once we train folks to become Scrum Masters or product owners or parts of the team, they will be successful. One of the worst things, Ashley, being in education is to learn a skill and then not be able to use it in the workplace
Right.
where you were taught the skill to apply it. So we ensure that the culture is prepared for this new discipline.
Hmm. That it puts it in perfect terms. You want to make sure not only are you implementing these great tools, but that your teams from the top to the bottom are just on board and align with what you're trying to do. That way everyone can make that positive change rather than all that resistance that we face a lot of times with
Right,
changes.
right. And it helps also. improve communications between leadership and staff. It helps align more of what the expectations and the goals of the organizations are. It aligns those better with the execution side that the teams and the workforce is expected to deliver. Once the organization has made a commitment to Scrum, what happens is the staff typically gets very excited about it. And if it's done properly, they will actually end up leading this transformation into more agile because they start to see almost immediately the benefits of using the tools and performing their work in a manner that's a lot more collaborative, where they can see more results of their work faster. And that's what Agile does. It allows the worker to see results of their efforts faster, and it helps them see where it actually adds value to the organization, to the project, and to the customer.
And that's like the most exciting and like motivating thing is when you start seeing those results quicker, you're like, yeah, this is working. I want to keep doing this, gain momentum, and, ride that great feeling.
Exactly. And that's exactly what scaling Scrum does. It starts at that one level. And I've been in organizations actually where we've measured everything in
Mhm.
Agile. Everything gets measured. And I've been in organizations where the teams, as they became more agile, they started more using more of the tools. The Scrum Masters who were responsible for taking the pulse of the teams realized that they were much more productive, they were prioritizing better, and overall they were happier. So they measured productivity, they measured the ability to prioritize, and they had a happiness metrics. So
I
they
love that.
they actually measured the happiness of the teams and the individuals on the teams and had them rated. And they followed the trend line to notice that the more they implemented the agile tools, the scrum masters that were taking these trend analysis and watching these trends, who themselves were being more productive and happier in their work, were recording results that were astronomical, well beyond what the company imagined. So that's kind of the power and the spirit of Agile. To your point, teams start to see the results of their work faster, and they start to see the impact that it has, and they become more happy in the work environment.
Awesome. And so now that we're thinking about this, like people, individuals, or organizations that are kind of like buying into this idea of Scrum as seeing the benefits of it, right?
Mhm.
They want to implement it. So would you say, what would be the next step? Would it be training to get a Scrum Master certification for someone on your team or for an individual? Or would it be, some type of consulting? What would be the next steps with trying to, implement this strategically?
Yeah, it depends. If you are already at a point where you've tried Agile and you're implementing Agile and you believe that it should be something that should be brought into the company, whether you're a small business or a large company, that's the other thing I want to bring out is that Agile, we're a small business and everything that we do, we operate in Agile. So Agile is not a matter of size within the organization. You could be a really, really large organization or you could be a very small organization with a couple of people. You could still implement these agile tools and these agile processes. So if you already have been performing in agile, then your next step would be to reach out to the college and start to look at developing the people that are responsible for delivering agile. There are three key roles on an agile team, and we offer a certification at corporate college for each of those roles. Once your staff is really geared up and understand and get certified, then it's time to start to scale Agile across the various platforms. So getting folks trained up would be the first approach. And then once they are trained, start to implement and scale Agile and send them back or bring other folks in, primarily the leadership, to get certified in Scrum at Scale. Okay,
Mm.
so there's a Scrum certification for general Agile. Then we offer a specific Scrum Master certification, and there's 2 levels of Scrum Master certification that we offer. And then the last one that we offer is Scrum at Scale. And that's really taking the leadership of an organization and having them get certified in their ability to scale this great thing called Scrum.
Awesome. Well, I know that I learned a lot more about Scrum and Agile through this conversation. So I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to explain all these concepts to us. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, Ashley. I greatly appreciate it. And we've got several courses through the college that's coming up really soon. So I would encourage your viewers to go to our website and register and sign up for some of the courses. They're all offered virtually as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there'll be a link in the description for the courses if you are interested. You're always welcome to visit corporatecollege.com to find out information about all of our programs. And as always, have a safe and wonderful day.